Hello again, it's Grandma Missy. We are reading from the book by Max Lucado, Tell Me the Secrets. The third chapter is called The Secret of Peace. The Bible verse for this is in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. It says, "We set our eyes not on what we see, but on what we cannot see. What we see will last only a short time, but what we cannot see will last forever." The illustrator, DiCianni, painted this picture. This is to go with our chapter. Let's see how the story continues. Josh watched Eric get up from the table, walk across the room, and stand by the kitchen window. "I don't understand it, Grandpa Josh. All I did was stand up for my beliefs." Rain streaked the window pane. Josh stirred his coffee. Eric stared out the window. Both were silent. Eric wondering why the kids laughed at him, Josh wondering what he should say. "I'm not the only Christian in science class," Eric broke the silence. "Why didn't anyone else speak up?" "Tell me again what the teacher said." Eric looked at Josh and let out a sigh. "He said I should know better than to believe in God." And the students laughed? Yeah, they laughed. They laugh at anything he says. You've got to understand, this teacher is a class act. He's young, he's sharp. The girls think he's handsome. We're not talking old fogey here. We're talking about the most popular teacher in school. Did any student speak up? Not for God. I guess they didn't want to look foolish. Eric turned again and looked out the window. I guess they didn't want to look like me. What bothers me most is not the silence of the kids, but the silence of God. What do you mean? Josh asked. Why didn't he do something? Why did he let everyone laugh at me? Why didn't he zap the teacher or shake the room? How do you know he didn't? 'Cause I was there. When the teacher asked who believed in God, I raised my hand. He said I was foolish and everybody laughed. He lectured for 10 minutes on how faith was old-fashioned. I didn't see God do anything, not one thing. Josh stroked his long mustache and smiled. You know, Eric, you aren't the first one to ask that question. What do you mean? Go to a hospital. Walk up and down the halls and you'll find people asking the same thing. Why doesn't God do something? Go where hungry people are. They'll ask it too. If God is alive, why doesn't he help? You're not the first one to question the presence of God. Josh stood up and motioned. Follow me. I want to show you something. The two stepped into the study where Josh kept his treasure chest from Africa. Josh led Eric to a table in the corner. Have I shown you my pets? He asked, pointing to a glass cage. Inside the cage, 4 little mice huddled in a corner. When did you get these? Melva bought them last week at the pet store. She loves animals. Here, meet Ezrod. Josh lifted the cage and lifted out the smallest of the mice. He was snow white with a nose that never stopped wiggling. He was born here, right in this room. Eric was puzzled. What does a mouse have to do with looking stupid in science class? Ezrod has something to teach you about peace, Eric, Josh explained as he put the rodent in Eric's hands. What? This mouse knows how you feel. Eric turned to turned Ezra around and looked at his small whiskered face. I don't get it. Well, Ezra has questions too. Eric rolled his eyes. Right. Like what? Like the other day he complained about monsters on the wall. Come on. No, really. See the framed photograph? That's you and Melva. Ezra doesn't think so. He's convinced that it's a window with two monsters staring in, waiting for a chance to eat him. Josh, you're crazy. Eric was starting to laugh. Josh's eyes twinkled, and that's just the beginning. See the walking stick in the corner? Yeah. Ezra thinks it's a snake. You're kidding. It doesn't look anything like a snake. Ezra doesn't know that. You know what else he complains about? What? He complains that I leave him alone in the room too much. He thinks if he can't see me, then I'm not alive. If he had his way, I'd be here in this room 24 hours a day. Wait a second. You're telling me that you have a mouse who thinks a picture is a monster, that a stick is a snake, and that if he can't see you, then you don't exist? That's right. That's insane. No, that's life through the eyes of a mouse. And you know, Eric, I can understand his confusion. You see, Ezra has no knowledge of life beyond this room. His entire world is right here. The ceiling is the sky. The walls are the edge of the earth. All he knows is this room. Eric leaned forward on the couch and stroked the back of the mouse. He was starting to get the point. Ezra doesn't understand that the real world is bigger than what he can see. That's right. He misinterprets what he can see and doesn't understand what he can't see. Kind of like me. Kind of like all of us. We all forget that God's world is much bigger than ours. From God's point of view, this earth is just one room in a huge house. We can only see a portion of what exists. Eric nodded his head. And since our vision is limited, we think pictures are monsters, we think sticks are snakes, and we think if we don't see the owner of the house, he isn't here. That's right. Let me show you something. Josh went to the shelf and took down the Book of Secrets, opened it, and handed it to Eric. Read the verse on this page. Eric read the words slowly. We set our eyes not on what we see, but on what we cannot see. What we see will last only a short time, but what we cannot see will last forever. 2 Corinthians 4:18. What does it mean to set your eyes on what you cannot see? Eric asked. Good question. I learned what this meant in jail. You did? Eric's eyes widened. I was working near a small village in the jungle. We dug water wells for the people. We became their friends and told them about God. They were interested. But the chief was angry. He had me thrown into a hut and locked the door. What happened? Well, while I was locked up, I asked the same questions you asked. I hadn't done anything wrong. I began to wonder where God was. As the days passed, I became anxious. Then I remembered this verse in the Bible. We set our eyes not on what we see, but on what we cannot see. So I decided to do it. I decided to see with my heart and not with my eyes. They could lock up my body, but they couldn't lock my heart. I spent hours sitting on the dirt floor of that hut, talking to God and soaring with him like an eagle through the sky. I was a prisoner, but my spirit was free. Eric was fascinated. How long were you locked up? 30 days. I later learned that they were just testing me to see if I was serious about my faith. Have they become Christians? Not many, but they may. At least they saw one person who was willing to stand up for his belief. Do you think my teacher was just testing me? Could be. Could be he isn't, though. Your teacher may mock you every day from now on. Your friends may laugh at you. But when they do, see the unseen. God is near. He is proud of you, Eric. He loves those who are loyal to him. And just because he doesn't make the ceiling fall or the ground shake, that doesn't mean he isn't by your side. Eric was quiet for a minute. Then he smiled. I guess Ezra and I have a lot in common. What do you mean? We both just need to trust. We both need to see more than we can see. And we both have you to remind us there is more to this world than what we could see. That's the end of chapter 3. We have a note from the artist who drew that picture entitled Peace. Do you remember that picture? Let me show you again. Here's the picture. Here's what the artist has to say. Over the years, I have often heard people say such things as, I'm happy in the Lord. They probably meant that at that particular time, everything in their lives is going well. The family is healthy, the job is okay, they got the new car, and they have a few dollars to put away. But what happens if God allows one of those things to change? I've often wondered how Peter and Paul sang in prison. Beats me. I once heard that peace is not the absence of storms in our lives. Peace is what you get in the storm. Too many times I haven't allowed God to give me his peace in the storm because I was too busy trying to convince him to get me out of there post haste. Sound familiar? Wouldn't it be wonderful to experience the peace that passes all understanding before the storm, so that after the storm we can say without feeling embarrassed, I knew you would take care of me. That would be worth its weight in gold. Here are some verses about peace. You will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is steadfast because he trusts in you. Isaiah 26:3. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. John 14:27. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:6 and 7. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times and in every way. The Lord be with you all. 2 Thessalonians 3:16. And that is the end of our chapter for today. Bye.